I'm about to talk to you about Warlord of the Wyrdwood. And can we just take a moment to appreciate the Broken Binding edition? I know it's a plain cover, but the end papers. It's stunning. Absolutely stunning. I did get an arc of this, so I have already read it because it was late in coming from the Broken Binding. It was like a couple of weeks after release. But it was well worth the wait, even though I did get an arc. But it was entertaining. And we basically take off from where we left with Gods of the Wyrdwood. And it just builds and builds, which I knew R.J. Barker was going to do. He is a master at building and building of what he lays in the foundation of book one. And he did that. And it was just excellent. More POVs. There are delving into, especially Sorcerer's character. Like, she was probably the most fascinating for me to read about in this book. Like, she, in this book, is so adamant on her revenge. I'm always a sucker for women on revenge. But she's so adamant to have revenge on Kahan, even though she doesn't like the Kalrai or any of the Right on what they've done because of how they treated her, because they look at her less now that she no longer has a cow. So, but even knowing that, she's like, Kahan did this to me. I am determined to see him die and pay for this. Even though she knows that actually if she joined him, she could take over the Rye and basically change how things are done. But no, she's so focused on her revenge and so focused on, like, I've had enough, I don't want this, you are going to die. And she takes people who Kahan loves, she dives deeper and deeper and deeper, but then towards the end of the book, it doesn't fully change. She's not like, I like Kahan now, but she realises things are bigger than what she first originally thought. And this is where R.J. Barker is just the best. He builds and builds and builds on everything that he's done before. And, like, this book, it's called Gods of the Wyrdwood, but no gods technically appear. We hear a lot about gods, but they don't appear. But we get a slither of more of what he set up with the gods and what is happening in this book. And to meet one of them, even though it's not face to face, but to understand how vast and big this is and the world that is outside of this world, and how one of the gods is striving to make things better, to stop a certain god from rising, is insane. There was a particular character who was in book one that I was surprised to see in book two, and I almost cried in a good way. But the characters in this, Kahan, let's start with Kahan. He is so stuck. He is stuck in his little world, in his, I need to defeat the Rye. I need to save these villagers and lead these villagers, but he doesn't want to be a leader. He doesn't want to lead them. But the first villager, basically, like, the previous leader of the villagers, the lyric, that's the word I was looking for. The lyric comes and tries to explain to Kahan they're looking for him for guidance. He's like, I'm not a leader. It's like, yeah, but you still have to lead. So he's slowly building up to doing all of that. He is one of the most powerful people there because of his cow. And they're traipsing through the forest and they are terrified, and you learn more and more about the forest, how vast nature is, how wonderful nature can be, but also how terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But then you also have the people following. You have hidden enemies everywhere. You have people doing stuff for the forest and the forest rewarding them, but the villagers not seeing it as a reward because they don't understand how the forest works. That kind of stuff, doesn't understand how nature works, everything goes. You understand more about the forest dwellers, which I just love, that expansion of world. I love the idea of expanding on what the cloud trees are and everything that there is there, how vast everything is. And it was a little bit cozy. Was it cozy? I mean, it's a dark book, not as dark as like Grimdark, but some things happen. But there are moments in here that were really cozy, that were very family, especially with the villager, especially with Aunt. Aunt is my favourite character, and what happened to him in this book was just so bad, so traumatising, and yet he still remained positive. He was still following his god, and I loved it. I loved Aunt so much. He is the absolute best in this book, absolute best. But this book builds more on the characters, and it builds more on the magic system. Now, this magic system has a high price, or so you think it does, until you learn that there are a certain group of people who also have this magic power, but they come at it from a different way, and their price isn't what Kahan's price is. So to use this magic, to use your cow, you have to kill somebody. Its price is death. That's how you wake it, that's how you use it. And it's no different here, but then there is something else growing in the forest. It's kind of like a fungus. And one of the characters here learns that they can tap it, but they don't understand the consequence of it, because the magic they were using is now shrinking and dying, and it's changing him as a person from using this magic. It's making him paranoid, it's making him want it even more, because it's not necessarily the forest itself, it's something different that he's taking from. And that basically builds and builds to the end of the book. You then realise the deep consequences of what he did. And where this book ended off, because of the consequences of using that, and what happened to this particular character was just... I couldn't put it down. The last 10% of this book, I was glued, like, I'm not putting this down. Fuck work, I'm reading. The way it built to that was just so artfully done. And this is completely different from what you'd get in Tide Child and what you'd get in R.J. Barker's Age of Assassins series. Those books are more fast, not like faster paced, but you get to things a lot better. This feels more of a bigger world than those two. It feels like it's dealing with a lot more bigger themes. It feels like, but it's building on things a brick at a time rather than trying to build a village, a house at a time. That's how it feels when reading this book. It was incredible. The characters really shone. Even Ven, who is not my favourite character. I hated her most through book one till like the last 20%. Then I liked her. It built on her as well. It built on what a Treon was. No, she's not her. They're they. They go by they. I don't understand why. It's not a gender thing. But it's because they are a Treon. It builds on what a Treon is. It builds on more of what is hidden within the forest and how the foresters live, which was entertaining enough. But you also get another POV, which was entertaining actually as well to read. Like, he's very good at picking these POVs and plopping them in front of you and being like, follow, and you're gonna love it. And I did. And it was a soldier who used to work for the Karai, who basically, because she succeeded in something, they are then now trying to kill her, but they can't outwardly condemn her. Politics. So they are giving her missions that she's going to fail. And she ends up with our band of people, with Ven, with Kahan, all of them, and she ends up being something that is a pivotal point in this book, and I think she will be in book 3 as well. But I liked her story, I liked her backstory, I like her character, which is just entertaining. I mean, the characters did just shine in this book, but what really gripped me about this book, and my favourite thing, is the expansing of the world and the magic system and the implications of choices the characters made and how they have serious consequences. This book was entertaining. This was so much fun to read. I cannot wait for book 3, and I'm gutted I have to wait another year, but it will be worth the wait. It's probably going to end with a bang. If you like forests, if you like deep characters, if you like consequences on decisions, please go pick this up. I have a review of book 1 up here, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you're going to go read R.J. Barker, because he is probably one of my favourite authors. I have not read a book by him I have not loved. So, be that as it may, pick this up and happy reading.